Hey, what's good, everybody, man? This your boy AK Harrison from whoisaKHarrison.com, man. You can also catch me at the bigmoneytrucker.com, the blog spot, man. Hey, look, there is a news story that I wanted to get to today, man. And this is about the UPS laying off 20,000 workers, man. Like, wow. I am actually, somewhat surprised about UPS, man. Okay. Um, but I'm not surprised, right? Because we already been covering this story on my channel. What's going on with UPS and automation, budget cuts, and all of that good stuff, man. We already done covered that, right? And we saw this coming. We saw this coming. We knew that UPS will be cutting jobs because of automation, one, and also the way that um, the way uh, that these employers are starting to reclassify their employees are independent contractors. Okay, all right. So that's the one thing that they're doing, man. They're doing that different. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and go through a few news articles, though, because that's been a hot topic, man. 20,000 workers being laid off at UPS, man. What's going on? We're going to go ahead and get a little history, do a timeline um, about where we are, man, what we're doing, and then we're going to run it back to present day time, man. But let's go ahead and get this right here. Let's start with this one right here, man. This is going to be interesting for me. Mm, mm.
They were going to offer it to someone else. That's just that's how the system works. Amazon's usually more efficient than anyone else. Amazon's usually focusing on the right numbers, and so they're usually able to get cheaper than everyone else too.
CNBC headed to an online merchant conference in Las Vegas to talk to former Amazon employees and current sellers about how third-party shipping is likely to be the behemoth's next big venture. Back in 1994, when it was just a website selling books, Amazon says Jeff Bezos hand-delivered the first customer packages to a Seattle post office himself. As business grew, it relied on UPS, the Postal Service, and to a lesser degree, FedEx for shipping.
In the old days, Amazon worked with FedEx, UPS, they needed help delivering packages, right, as quickly as possible, and they didn't want to disappoint Prime members. Nowadays, Amazon has way more planes than they used to. They've got vans in every neighborhood.
Now, Amazon's got 300 million customers in 200.
So basically, what Amazon is doing is just cutting out the middleman, cutting costs, man.
100 plus countries.
And the way that they had cut out the middleman too. So with UPS, you have not only do you have a middleman, but you have salaried workers that get paid by the hour who are also a part of a union. Y'all know that those unions, that's big business right there. It's politics and it's business all at the same time.
Former Amazon Product Safety Program Manager Rachel Greer says by 2011, online shopping volume was overwhelming even the most established nationwide shippers.
It turned out that UPS couldn't handle the volume.
Wow.
So at that point, our VP was saying, we can't handle this. We can't have this happen. Amazon cannot be hamstrung in our growth by a third-party service.
Well, look at that, man. With the amount of capacity that Amazon is generating, UPS can't handle it. So they brought in some more help.
Provider, we have to solve this ourselves.
By 2014, Amazon says it wanted better control. So it started developing a global transportation network from scratch to ensure consistent and reliable delivery.
It really hasn't taken them that long to build that capability. It's a great moat around their business, right? Building a logistics network is a really hard thing to do, and other companies, won't be able to easily follow in their footsteps relative to that.
In 2019, Amazon was delivering less than 47%.
Look like they're stepping up their game 2019.
Of its own packages. Now in 2021, that number has soared to 72%. Similar growth has happened with warehouses. In 2018, 51% of the US population lived within an hour of an Amazon warehouse. Now that's up to 77%. To get there, Amazon's Q1 capital expenditures, which includes logistics expansion, grew by a whopping 80% over the previous year.
I don't think they had a choice.
Amazon goal is to have a Amazon near you, right in your neighborhood. They want to have one sitting right beside the Walmart, right there beside your neighborhood grocery store. You can pick up your groceries and everything right there at your Amazon, shipped directly to your door.
They knew that it was going to be a challenge for UPS and FedEx to do the kind of investment required in order to meet that standard for their customers.
My one
in 2019, Amazon changed the game.
Keep those prices low. Because I do know that they don't own the buildings, right? With the Amazon warehouse, how it goes is that, the building, they lease the building. They don't own the land. They don't own the building. Only thing they do is just lease, and they work inside of the building. Everything in the building is rented and contracted, and maybe the employees, but then there are some warehouses that have independent contractors there, and those drivers actually are independent contractors.
And comprehensive benefits for both full-time and part-time team members. You're looking for your next opportunity.
When it made one-day shipping the norm. That same year, FedEx announced it would not renew its partnership with Amazon. But Amazon still depends on UPS and the Postal Service, at least for now.
The USPS delivers to every zip code, every small town in America. Yep. And Amazon built its strategy around taking away the high volume centers.
According to one investigation, Amazon has already begun quietly transporting cargo on its planes for the Postal Service.
USPS isn't exactly known right now for being on time or efficient. So it may be that Amazon's the better option in those cases.
And in May last
But they just throwing UPS up under the bus left and right.
year, Amazon launched a logistics as a service program in the UK. Researchers from DePaul University predict something similar will launch here in the US in the next 18 months, while Morgan Stanley predicted it could happen this year. Analysts say Amazon will likely focus on shipping from retailers directly to consumers, rather than trying to replicate the vast array of services offered by FedEx and UPS.
They're not going to be just this blanket carrier that will deliver.
So pick up from a store and deliver to your house. You don't even have to leave your home. That's going to be real interesting. Um, really
For
interesting.
whatever package that you want them to whatever address. Amazon is sort of cherry picking the routes they want to run and sort of the parcel sizes they want to deliver.
Like all carriers, Amazon experienced significant shipping delays during the pandemic, yet the number of Prime members continued to soar, reaching 200 million in 2020. And as the number of customers grew, so too did Amazon's spend on logistics. Perhaps the biggest investment so far is the new $1.5 billion Amazon Air Hub in Kentucky.
Planes were
Air freight dedicated to Amazon right there in the good old bluegrass state of Kentucky.
always part of the plan because, if you're trying to do 2-day delivery, there's just certain things you got to use planes for.
Amazon launched its air cargo division in 2016, contracting with several carriers to fly packages closer to Amazon's sprawling system of 185 plus global warehouses. The Kentucky hub has been in development for 4+ years, with Bezos attending the groundbreaking in 2019.
It's going to let us get packages to customers faster, and that's a big deal.
The new 600-acre Amazon hub at the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport includes an 800,000 square foot robotic sort center.
Whoa. All right, do y'all see this building right here? Okay. Let's run that back.
In development for 4+ years, with Bezos attending the groundbreaking in 2019.
It's going to let us get packages to customers faster, and that's a big deal.
The new 600-acre Amazon hub at the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport.
Y'all see these little blue machines? Not a human in sight, man. Look at that.
Includes an 800,000
Look at them just moving the packages to and from, man. Look at that.
square foot robotic sort center. A smaller 20,000 square foot Amazon Air Hub opened in Germany last November. But as early as 2018, analysts were calling Amazon Air a competitive risk to UPS and FedEx. By 2019, it had 50 planes, but it also faced the risk of pilots.
Whoa. Not the pilots going on strike. Come on.
Strikes, with one union saying Amazon paid pilots 33% less than they got paid to fly similar cargo planes for UPS and FedEx.
I don't believe that consumers will ever go backwards from where we are, but that doesn't mean it has to put this kind of pressure on the system.
We're going to take off those captions.
It's going to take a lot of coordination between the big companies, Amazon of the world, and our contractors to build a system that's both fair, equitable, and sustainable.
After
It's
6+
all business.
years of labor negotiations, many Amazon pilots now have a new contract with improved pay rates and work rules. Amazon now says it leases or owns more than 70 aircraft that fly to 35+ destinations in the US and Europe. In comparison, FedEx operates a fleet of 680 aircraft, and UPS has 576.
All right, so look for the next phase. This is 2021. All right, so like I said, we're doing some history and we're catching up to current time. So look for Amazon to start building their own airplanes. Look for that.
At 70+ planes, Amazon's reach is still smaller, but its rapid growth sets it apart. DePaul researchers found Amazon has expanded from 122 daily flights in August 2020 to 140 in February 2021, predicting Amazon will have 200 planes by 2028. An earlier key to faster delivery was Amazon's
I say that they're going to have more planes than that.
big investment in the most expensive part of the shipping process, getting a package that last mile to your door. Some of this is done by Amazon Flex drivers, individual gig workers who make between $18 and $25 an hour driving.
They call them gig workers. They're independent contractors. That mean they don't get any benefits. They just get straight pay. No overtime, no insurance, no life insurance, nothing. Just $25 an hour. That's it. 7 days a week. And that's been brewing in the industry, period. All labor work will eventually go to contractors. Like if you were to go to a construction site, the only person who's getting paid salary would probably be the foreman, and that's it. Maybe a few supervisors. Everybody else, contractors, day workers, day laborers. You can go to a labor pool and get those guys. Eventually, those drivers for Amazon, they will be day laborers as well.
Driving routes on demand. Another 115,000 Amazon drivers work for Delivery Service Partners, or DSPs, small independent companies that contract exclusively with Amazon. The DSP program
and nobody getting any benefits or insurance.
Started in 2018, with Amazon offering $10,000 to incentivize current Amazon employees, veterans, Black, Latinx, and Native American entrepreneurs to launch a DSP. There's now more than 2,000 DSPs in the US.
Ultimately, it's a very low cost structure compared to the competitors. And so if you're a seller and
like if you were able to get into that, you probably were able to make some money too.
You don't have a personal issue with some of the stories that are coming out, which are growing in number, unfortunately, then it's a real cost advantage for you.
But DSP drivers have voiced big concerns lately, from cameras recording inside vans at all times to running stop signs and urinating in bottles to keep up the pace.
They already done started some trucker bad habits, man. Peeing in bottles. God.
Which is definitely
Amazon News. Let's just read this. You don't really believe the pee in the bottle thing, do you? If that were true, nobody would work for us. The truth is that we have over 1 million incredible employees around the world who are proud of what they do and have great wages and health care from day one. Amazon News. Replying to Rep. Mark Pocan.
definitely disgusting, getting into
Gravel Institute. You mean these pee bottles? That is crazy. In the truck.
the vans the next day and seeing somebody's pee bottle sitting behind the seat or sitting in the cup holders.
Regardless, Amazon's army of drivers and branded vehicles is only growing. It purchased 100,000 electric vans from Rivian in 2019. They're being tested in 16 cities now, with 10,000 of them scheduled to hit.
So you got a few things going on, man. You got those electrical vehicles that's getting tested. You have independent contractors who are changing the job market. You also have Amazon, who is taking up some of the market share as far as delivery services go, and retail. So you have a whole lot of that's just going into play, man. On top of the automation, there's a lot of stuff that's just going on into play right now.
Hit the road next year.
I think there are some growing pains there, but once they sort out some of those issues, it'll be more attractive as a side hustle for people, the same way Instacart was or Uber driving is.
For its growing number of international shipments, Amazon uses ocean liners, especially between China and the US. For domestic cross-country shipments, Amazon has 40,000 Prime-branded semi-truck trailers. And it's got powerful algorithms that know when one of those trucks won't be full.
Very few companies are filling an entire 53-foot truck to ship somewhere. If you've got all these trucks running around and they're only operating at 20-30% capacity, Amazon's smart enough to know, hey, we should be filling these trucks up any way we can to maximize, the capital that we've invested in these things.
Keith Gregory's vitamin and supplement company is based in a 3,500-person town in Oregon. It does about $4 million of annual sales on Amazon.
They've reached out to us very aggressively, trying to get us to work with them for our shipping arrangements, but not just for our own branded products. So they're interested in LTL and freight.
Pharmaceuticals, man, that's going to be the wave. That is the wave, actually. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, the pandemic actually kind of exposed what people will do for pharmaceuticals and medication, man.
Great for our other segments of our business as well, the pieces that UPS and FedEx are currently handling for us.
The Amazon Freight program lets sellers like Gregory take advantage of LTL, less than load, truck space at discounted rates, while allowing Amazon to make money on otherwise wasted space. Gregory just started using the program and says Amazon charges up to $1,700 less than FedEx or UPS Freight for some of his.
So Amazon charges less than UPS and FedEx.
Routes from Oregon to Southern California.
They certainly seem to want to own the market. And, for us being in a rural community, the fact that somebody's willing to cater to us and they're willing to accommodate pickup schedules and not just say, okay, we'll be there every day at 3:30 is also very attractive to us. Not just the rate piece, but the fact that they're also willing to, use their vast fleet of vehicles to help us with our logistics.
That's not necessarily an Amazon truck. That is an Amazon trailer. But as you can see, that truck, let me see, can we zoom in on that? That is a contracted truck.
Logistics as well, which UPS and FedEx are not cooperative in that sense.
Amazon has this odd imbalance where they have an enormous amount of goods going inbound to Amazon warehouses, but then very often those trucks are leaving empty, going other places. Again, a kind of a classic Amazon thing to do by taking that internal service and then making it available to anyone to use externally. They're able to, now have more revenue.
Many Amazon sellers, like Bernie Thompson, pay to use a service called Fulfilled by Amazon, or FBA, where sellers store inventory in an Amazon warehouse and rely on Amazon to pack and ship out customer orders.
So just like that, man, Amazon done changed the way warehousing is done as well. So you got logistics as a whole, employment, automation. Wow. Like I said, we're catching up to how UPS is laying off 20,000 employees.
Amazon also offers FBA service for orders not made on Amazon.com.
There were points in time in our company's existence where really Amazon shipped 100% of our orders for all channels, not just on Amazon, but also on eBay, Newegg, Walmart, Google.
Amazon calls this multi-channel fulfillment. Thompson uses it for many of the 120 plus consumer electronic products he sells from his warehouse outside Seattle.
So if you go today and buy a pluggable product on eBay, it's actually going to be coming from an Amazon warehouse and very often delivered by an Amazon delivery service.
This explains why some orders from eBay or Walmart and others arrive at your door in Amazon packaging, although Amazon has tried to solve this with varying success.
Amazon's had on-off programs over the years to fulfill items from their warehouse but have it be in packaging that was not Amazon marked. They've never really succeeded at that. Like we were part of that program, and then we found out that, the boxes were blank, but they were using this super colorful Amazon marketing Christmas tape.
You see the way he tossing those packages?
And these were being used for Walmart orders.
I think the killer feature will be when Amazon is able to do merchant branded fulfillment. They might be able to slap on or inkjet on branded aspects to that fulfillment package so that a customer doesn't understand that this box is being delivered by Amazon and that it's in the brand of the merchant.
So
is he talking like maybe that box be branded with a Nike check or a what else? Or maybe a Levi stamp, So I don't know. Let's see. Let's keep on going.
Why does Amazon want to take on the expensive behind-the-scenes job of shipping non-Amazon orders? It may, in fact, help Amazon hold on to its reputation for the lowest prices online.
It might cost me, say, $3.30.
And this is a busy restaurant at 12 o'clock at night, man. It was crazy. I've never been in a restaurant like this busy, and it's busy at 12 o'clock at night. It's insane.
Cents to send an envelope type of product across the country for an Amazon order. That same order, when it's not an Amazon order, let's say an eBay order, might be $5.70 or something like that. And so that causes an effect where brands like us on a $10 product or a $30 product, you will almost always find the Amazon price lower than the eBay price.
If they can.
So what will UPS and your FedEx will have to do? They're going to have to find a way to compete, man. Like, we're watching this in real time. Amazon become a major player and a disruptor. Like, what will UPS and FedEx do? What will the United States Post Office do to get back into the market share to really compete?
Double, even at 30% more revenue and capacity, because they're delivering not just for Amazon customers, but for, frankly, the entire internet. It does help them get more scale, more cost benefits, especially.
One thing I think that UPS and FedEx and especially the post office, they didn't lean into technology enough. They didn't really think forward. And one thing they probably gonna have to do is end up doing is getting some of those technologies that's at the Amazon warehouses and incorporate them into their warehouses so they can compete, man.
As you move into more remote areas where they just don't have as much Amazon customer volume.
There was, in fact, already a program called Amazon Shipping being tested in several U.S. cities last year, until it was shut down at the beginning of the pandemic.
Amazon to suspend deliveries that competes with UPS.
Amazon drivers would pick up packages from businesses and deliver them to consumers without ever setting foot in a warehouse.
You'll see this start off in a couple of markets, and they'll tweak it, and they'll sort of take some learnings away from those initial markets, and then they'll expand the program more broadly.
And if you look at all of the third-party services that they opened up to sellers over the years, including AWS, they had to become the best in the business to service their own. And by bringing in additional revenue streams to help support scale, ultimately brings down cost, creates more of a situation where they can gain more market share and more market power, and they are addicted to growth.
Indeed, Amazon's current shipping expansion is reminiscent of other times it's used immense resources and data to disrupt an industry. Think Prime Video and Amazon Web Services.
That was part of the process for making sure that FBA sellers were compliant more than a decade ago. And they were like, well, we have excess capacity, let's use it. And then when AWS started, we have excess capacity, let's use it. So of course, if Amazon develops a platform, it works well. And of course, there's going to be excess capacity. They're going to try to sell it to someone.
And Amazon has learned much from its more established shipping partners about how to keep costs down. For example, it still primarily outsources costly rural deliveries to USPS and outsources the expensive last mile portion to those small delivery service partner contractors.
What Amazon is able to do right now is sort of pick off probably the most attractive routes, the most attractive packages, and deliver to the most densely populated areas.
On the extreme end, some think there's a chance Amazon will try to buy other shippers outright.
Down the road, I think Amazon will be so big, so powerful, and so wealthy, they will simply absorb UPS.
But one thing is certain. Amazon says it's continuing to spend on logistics, figuring out how to keep climbing to the top of e-commerce.
I am actually when I see those little robots moving across the floor like that, I am actually perplexed and impressed at the same time. Like, wow, man, there's a whole facility. And there's probably 3 individuals in there, and it's nothing but robots running the whole thing.
And beyond.
Amazon is a company that will unabashedly compete with...
Hey, no more pallet jacks, no more forklifts. Done.
With everyone. They will compete with their customers, they will compete with their partners, and they will compete with themselves. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that's part of the secret to Amazon's success.
Man. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's see where we at. So now that we done saw what Amazon got going on, let's check out this page right here.
UPS announced Tuesday it would lay off 20,000 workers this year, despite beating first quarter profit estimates, as the shipping giant expects a decline in deliveries after cutting its shipment for Amazon in half earlier this year. In its first quarter earnings report, UPS announced it expects to save $3.5 billion in 2025 after cutting 20,000 jobs and closing 73 leased and owned buildings by the end of June.
And that's the one thing, right? UPS is a publicly traded company, so that means they're going to have to take care of those shareholders. They have shareholders, they got a board of trustees, they have a CEO that makes over $20 million a year, so they're going to have to cut costs somehow. And the way that they cut costs, labor, all of those good paying jobs paying $30, $40 an hour, out of there. But what's going to happen is they're going to reclassify those guys as independent contractors. I had an uncle that used to work for UPS for 30 years. He had retired probably about 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. And his pension is outstanding. He lives in a mansion in Charlotte all by himself, right? All off of UPS. And UPS is like, nah, we're not going to do that moving forward. What we're going to do is go ahead and lay you guys off, making that good money because y'all done got a union, negotiated a higher wage. But this is what we're going to do. Fire you, rehire you, but you're going to be an independent contractor. No more overtime, no more double time. Working on the holidays, getting triple pay, those days are over with. Straight pay. If you're working 50 hours a week, that's what you're going to get paid, 50 hours. If you're working 60 hours, that's what you're going to get paid. No more time and a half, no more double time. We're cutting costs. It ain't personal, it's just business. But let's go ahead and see what else we got.
The layoffs and building closures follow what UPS said is, quote, anticipation of lower volumes from our largest customer, meaning Amazon, which UPS announced in January would have its shipping volume with the company cut in half by 2026.
Amazon is cutting into the market share.
At the time, UPS projected a decline in revenue for 2025 as CEO Carol Tomé said it was, quote, time to step back for a moment and reassess our relationship with Amazon.
Amazon is moving forward, man. There's no need to reassess anything, right? Amazon already done made their mind up. They're doing logistics. They're doing it better. They're doing it cheaper. They're doing it more efficient. Something that UPS has failed to do over the years. You know, like I said, they got those salaries and pensions that they got to pay out, and which Amazon don't, right? Amazon is a fairly new company compared to Big Brown. What can Brown do for you? I remember those commercials. What can Brown do for you? You don't see those commercials too much these days.
According to UPS, Amazon shipments accounted for 11.8% of the company's overall revenue in 2024. UPS reported first quarter revenue of $21.5 billion, beating analyst expectations by approximately $500 million, according to FactSet. Still, the shipping giant pulled its full-year guidance, despite earlier forecasting revenue of $89 billion for its current fiscal year, citing the, quote, current macroeconomic uncertainty. Tomé said in the company's 2024 fourth quarter earnings call, quote, The company's decision to reduce shipment volume from Amazon will allow UPS to expand its profit margins. Amazon is our largest customer, but it's not our most profitable customer. For more on this subject, read Ty Rush's article on Forbes.com.
All right, so we got a couple of more videos that we're going to watch, man, to see where we can get at. Get some more perspective on this thing, man.
While announcing it had a better first quarter than expected, UPS revealed it will be making some big changes. The logistics company said it will cut 20,000 jobs in an effort to lower costs. It also plans to shut down 73 of its buildings by the end of June. UPS originally said it would cut 12,000 jobs, but economic uncertainty as well as an expected decrease in
That was last year. They had reported last year that they were going to close down a few buildings and 12,000 employees, but that number had increased, man. You got to make those shareholders happy. You got to keep them happy.
on shipments has the company scrambling to save money. In January, UPS said it planned to slash millions of Amazon deliveries, with CEO Carol Tomé saying, "Amazon is our largest customer, but it's not our most profitable customer." UPS says it expects to save about $3.5 billion in 2025 with the cost-cutting measures.
Saving $3.5 billion. That's pretty good.
UPS also expects to see a decrease in traffic from Chinese e-commerce platforms Temu and Shein.
Man, and you know the one thing about China too, and I kind of feel bad because I've been ordering products from China and it's been coming directly from China. Man.
That forecast comes after the U.S. said it will begin collecting tariffs on goods that were, until now, duty-free up to $800. That'll do it for your daily briefing. From New York City, I'm Kelsey Barbario with The Street.
Hey, babe, how you doing? And we got one more. We're going to listen to what Carol Tomé said 3 months ago.
Have you on. Thanks for being with us today.
Good to see you, Morgan.
So I do want to start with the fact that for fourth quarter, your earnings beat expectations, but it was really that full year 2025 revenue guidance and operating profit coming in weaker than expected. And then this news about Amazon and the fact that you're going to be tapering some of those volumes here through 2026 that has sent the shares lower. How much of the Amazon business piece of this is factoring into your guidance for 2025?
Well, Morgan, it's great to spend some time with you. And let me just talk a little bit about our Amazon relationship. We've been together for nearly 30 years. They are our largest customer, but they're not our most profitable customer. And the contract with Amazon came up for renewal in 2025. So we stepped back to take a look at where did we want to take this business going forward? Because if we knew if we didn't take action, it would have diminishing returns. So we looked at a number of different alternatives and decided that the best thing to do would to accelerate a glide down of their volume, taking it down by more than 50% by June of 2026. What that means in terms of the guidance is simply this. In the United States, our volume will decline in 2025 by 8.5%.
She couldn't even get that out, man.
Our revenues will decline by about 2%, but our profit will increase by 14.5%.
All right, so we're going to cut cost all around the board, which in return going to keep our shareholders happy, right? But we're going to lose some employees. We're going to trim the fat, go lean. Revenue's going to come down. Profit's going to come up. Business 101.
As you do grow margins and as you do seek out, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more in just a moment, some of these perhaps more profitable areas of business, have you been surprised to see the reaction in the stock today? I mean, UPS is having its worst day on record. I mean, we have in some ways seen this playbook play out before, just a couple of years ago when FedEx disentangled itself from its own Amazon contracts.
So we had a big announcement today, and there was a lot for the market to digest. I think as the days and weeks come and analysts and investors digest our news, they will understand that we are taking control of our destiny. We are going to grow in the parts of the market that value our end-to-end network and value the capabilities that we have been investing in that differentiate us from the rest of the market.
I wonder if they're going to get into some details of what that is.
We are not a shrinking company. We are a growing company, but we need to take control of the Amazon volume.
How do you plan to backfill that volume as it comes down at Amazon, especially given the fact that the last time you and I spoke in March of last year on the heels of your Investor Day, you laid out this 1+2 plan and this better and bolder vision for the company?
Yes, so the 1+2 plan played out beautifully.
Let's see what this is.
We ended up with a lot of momentum in 2024, growing revenue and profit. As we think about how we're going to grow going forward, well, the U.S. small package market is growing in the low single-digit area in 2020-25, and we're going to take share. How are we going to take share? By leveraging the capabilities that we've been investing in. And I'll give you one example. We've seen great growth in our small and medium-sized customer segment. That segment reached now about 29% of our total business in the United States in 2024. And we're going to
UPS going to have to change their business model. What they're going to have to somehow get dedicated customers, maybe go subscription based. They're going to have to find a way to make their services cheaper. They're going to have to broaden their services because what Amazon is doing is it's next level. They just got way too much payroll to cover, man. As long as Amazon got warehouses that's full of robots, meanwhile UPS got warehouses that's full of workers making $20 and $30 an hour, you just can't compete with Amazon at the moment.
We're going to grow that to 32% in 2025 and then on our way to 35% by 2026. It doesn't stop with SMBs, however. We're growing into cold chain logistics. We just completed the acquisition of another cold chain logistics, healthcare logistics company in Germany known as Frigo-Trans. So our healthcare business was pretty growthy last year.
Pharmaceuticals, that's always profitable right there, man. People always getting sick in America. They're going to need those blood pressure pills. They're eating those burgers and fast food late night, diabetes. You're going to need that medicine. So shipping medicine is going to always be profitable in America. Look at that smiling grin on the face. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
And it will continue to grow in 2025. The healthcare business in 2024 grew 5%. In 2025, it's going to grow nearly 8%.
Because I'm telling you, if you had a chance to invest in Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson back in 2020, you made a killing. You know what I'm talking about? You ate real good.
And we're on our way to take that business to a $20 billion business by 2026.
Now, you've also said you're going to be reconfiguring the network. You plan to extract $1 billion in cost savings. How does that happen?
So there are different cost out activities associated with the announcements that we made today. We have a lot of assets and resources that support the Amazon volume. And as the Amazon volume comes down, we will be freeing up resources and assets. We'll close about 10% of our buildings throughout the United States.
I wonder if they own those buildings, you know, like I wonder if they own those buildings where they have a chance to lease those buildings or do something like repurpose those buildings. I wonder.
As an example of how we're freeing up assets and resources. And clearly our staffing, well, it flexes with the volume that's inside of our network. On the Efficiency Reimagined announcement that we had today, this is about just improving many of our processes to take out costs. We've got some pretty archaic processes in our company still today. For example, we still take checks. So we've identified over $1 billion of cost savings just by running a better business.
They still take checks? No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right? But what she's mentioning is that They, as far as like technology goes, they are way behind the competition, man. Um, it amazes me how these businesses, these big businesses, can be so blinded by their competition, like what's coming up behind them. And before they even know it, like the future is right there in their present. Like, oh man, competition is here and they're doing it better, they're doing it faster, they're doing it more efficient. And now you're going to have to fire employees just to keep your shareholders satisfied. Losing revenue, you're losing revenue, but you're profitable. How you do that? You cut labor costs. You start selling assets, selling those trucks and selling those buildings.
Business going forward.
And then just finally, on the e-commerce piece of this specifically, Amazon's certainly getting a lot of attention today, but you have also been delivering more and more packages for some of the Chinese e-commerce players as well. You've brought SurePost in.
That's interesting right there, man. Temu, Shein. I order straight from China. I got a guy on WhatsApp right now, and I believe my packages get delivered through UPS or FedEx, one of the two, depending on if it's priority mail. But it's not Amazon. It's not Amazon, and it's not the United States Postal Service. Actually, you know what? I take it back.
All love customers. The driver of truck 558, you need to come move your truck off our fuel island.
What I was about to say. Actually, those packages did arrive at the post office, though. I will say that. So they're still in the game somehow.
In-house, which is a postal service related service as well. So what does that mean for the e-commerce business, the business to consumer business at UPS specifically?
So on SurePost, this is an important product that we offer to our customers, and it's economy product. It made up a little under 20% of our total volume in the fourth quarter. We had used the Postal Service as part of the last mile delivery solution for this product. The Postal Service is changing its operating model and raising its costs. And when we looked at that value proposition, we were nervous about that because, well, they were changing their operating model, which could put...
You know, the post office is one of those services that's really expensive too. They're paying pensions, they paying salary workers. And then whenever you go to the post office, it's always inefficient, man. Everything about the post office is just inefficient. Long lines, you're always waiting. They're not operating on the weekend, closed on Sundays. Amazon 24 hours a day, man. You're getting customer care all day long.
Service at risk.
The one thing about Amazon, though, they need to change up is their customer care over the phone. Nobody speaks English. That's their first language, man. Communication barrier.
So we took a look at that.
And that's where a company like UPS and another American company, they can really double down on and say, hey, you can still have customer service with people who are here, who speaks English. English is their first language. They can really lean into that, man, because that's one opportunity where Amazon is definitely dropping the ball at. Customer care over the phone.
That and said, hey, we can insource what the Postal Service had been doing for us and make sure that we have excellent customer service for our customers.
Bingo.
By the way, we already delivered 50% of the SurePost product, so we're only insourcing the remaining 50%. It's a better value
Damn it, I should be a CEO, my motherfucker.
Proposition for our customers, and it's a better value proposition for our share owners. In terms of the overall e-commerce market, we are really focused on the customer segments that value our end-to-end integrated network. That's cold chain, healthcare, logistics. It's small and medium-sized business customers.
Because, you know, when I think about it, man, when Walmart was like really coming up the ranks in the 80s and the 90s, Mr. Sam Walton, one thing that he doubled down on and tripled down on was customer service. There were days when, and stories about people having different products from another store, bring it to Walmart for a refund or an exchange, and Walmart would actually take it back in the 80s and 90s. And it wasn't until Mr. Sam Walton had died, and when the kids had took over the company, when they just phased that process out, like, okay, we're not taking anything back without a receipt. But no receipt, nothing. Hey, Mr. Sam Walton said, hey, the customer was always right. And he got that company from, what it was in a single store in Arkansas to the largest retailer in the world by the time he died, man. All because the good customer service. That got to be your job one, Miss UPS, ma'am. That got to be your job. Customer service.
Customers, it's B2B customers. It's differentiating our capabilities to gain stickiness with our customers. In fact, our churn, in other words, the number of customers that left us last year, was the lowest it's been in many, many years. So we're just laser focused on segments and capabilities and not chasing all the packages that are coming into the small package market.
Carol, we've just talked about the news and the outlook for 2025. Coming off of a peak holiday season, though, and much stronger than expected numbers for Q4, what is your sense of both the U.S. economy and the global economy right now?
So our sense is that it's pretty good, and the projections for global GDP are in the low single digit area, which is not bad. The same thing is true for export and industrial manufacturing. I'm pretty excited about what the projections are for industrial manufacturing, because after 7 quarters in a row of decline, it's projected to grow in the 2% area in 2025. So that bodes pretty well for our business and for the economy.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because I've had some of these conversations with other folks in the freight business and transportation business as well. What do you think it takes to see that inflection in the industrial part of the economy?
Well, a lot of it's just that, of course, the demand patterns need to change, and I think they are. Capital dollars being spent are up. Feels pretty good to me.
And then international is an area where you continue to grow as well. So what are you seeing in terms of international business, especially given so much focus right now on trade and the possibility of tariffs?
We don't export a whole lot, so this is going to be an interesting question to answer right here.
Yeah, so we had a terrific fourth quarter in our international business, where our domestic and our export average daily volume returned to growth. We also saw strong revenue quality and strong earnings, printing $1 billion of profit out of our international business and a margin of 21.6%. So it was just a great way to exit. And as we look to 2025, the market is projected to grow in the mid-single digits, and we're expecting to take share as the market grows. Now, as it relates to tariffs and trade, trade follows policy, and tariffs generally are not good for trade. But here's the thing about UPS. I think is important to note. In terms of our risk, if you will, last year we delivered 22.4 million packages a day. Of that,
that's a lot of packages. How many?
If you will, last year we delivered 22.4 million packages a day. Of that, less than 400,000 packages were imported into the United States from countries like Canada, China, Europe, Mexico.
So they're doing most of their business domestically, which is actually excellent.
So our risk exposure for our small package business is pretty small. As it relates to shippers broadly, they have lots of choices if tariffs are placed against them. They can do nothing and absorb the cost. They can pass the cost along, or they can look at other alternatives. Those alternatives might be a change in mode. In other words, moving from high premium air to perhaps ocean freight, or they can look at changing destination, not delivering to countries that are charging the tariff. So they can look at changing origin, moving to manufacturing sites to other countries. And we got ahead of that, Morgan, a couple of years ago when we saw China Plus One.
She's struggling with the English language. I wonder if she's American, Tomei.
Strategy happening with many manufacturers who weren't leaving China, but they were moving manufacturing to other countries like Vietnam. So we expanded our capabilities in countries like Vietnam, and we're seeing 20.
So I'm wondering if setting up like a UPS in like what she said, like a Vietnam or China, would that cut into the cost of shipping? Like, who are these container ships, right? Like maybe they're going to get into container shipments, the whole ships, right? Like, UPS, we're on the ocean now, right? the UPS port.
30% growth in those trade lanes. So the beauty of having a global integrated transportation network is that we
UPS in Mexico. Because that's the thing, right? You want to set up shop as many places as you can, as long as the international players will let you do that, right?
we can handle our shippers, whatever they decide to do if tariffs come their way.
Do you expect that dynamic to continue? And if so, what does it mean in terms of how you're planning out future investments in your own network globally?
So it's hard to tell. There's a lot of noise right now with tariffs, but we do know a few things. We do know that the largest trade lanes are in Asia. So we've announced an expansion of our airport in Hong Kong, and we're building.
Well, I swear, I'll be on top of this, man. God.
In a brand new gateway in the Philippines. So we'll be able to take advantage of those growing trade lanes.
And then finally, labor. You had the high-profile contract that was struck, I guess, about a year and a half ago. Now, what does that mean in terms of how it's factoring into your costs as you do focus on things like growing margins?
So the beauty of the labor contract that we negotiated last year is that we have
the Teamsters, them union jobs, man.
Have certainty regarding our costs. It was a front-loaded contract, but that first year of the contract is behind us. The average annual cost of the contract is 3.3%. And we saw that in the fourth quarter where our labor costs just rose 3%. And that then gives us certainty as we plan for the future. Then hours and the staffing that we use inside of our business will fluctuate versus the volume in our network. But in terms of the underlying costs, we have clarity as to what that is, and that's factored into our guidance.
Carol Tomei, CEO of
yeah. Let me see. I think we have one more, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, that's the last one. So Amazon is slashing 20,000 jobs, but they're planning on doing some things domestically or internationally, as you can see from the CEO. Let's see if I got one more video for you guys. Because we just want to kind of figure out what's going on, man, get some different perspectives, right?
Major layoffs for UPS. By next month, 20,000 workers will lose their job, and that's on top of several facilities set to close.
NBC4's Christian Caceres is live outside the UPS hub in Riverside on what it means for all of us. Christian.
That's right, guys. Well, UPS released their first quarter.
This is Riverside, California.
Earnings report today saying that this is all due to new or increased tariffs and also the change in the economy. Now, they would not specify or give any more details as to how this would impact operations right here in Southern California. But today we spoke to several customers who believe they think that this will slow down services.
The future is grim for thousands of UPS employees. As the company announced Tuesday, they are cutting 20,000 people from its workforce and shutting down dozens of facilities across the country.
To me, it's taking food off the table because people have their needs, and actually, all what's going on right now, they need to have a job.
Outside the UPS store in Victorville, word of the company reduction in staff and property.
And that's another. I've been to UPS a few times, and every time you go up to a UPS store, it's just about as chaotic as a post office, man. It's a long line. You know, you have to email your slipped. It's a mess up in there, man. You have like 3 people working behind the desk over here. There's a person over here. The lines out the building. And then it's expensive. Very inefficient. So really and truthfully, I'm not surprised that they are cutting 20,000 jobs, man.
Raised concerns among customers.
That's really sad to hear. I'm sure that's going to affect all of us, not just the employees, but all of us who depend on UPS. That's going to be really rough.
UPS reporting it made consolidated revenue of $21.5 billion compared to $21.7 billion this time last year during their first quarter earnings report, blaming new and increased tariffs and changes to the economy. The company also reducing the number of
sound like they trying to go anti-Trump
packages they deliver for Amazon by more than 50% by the summer of 2026. UPS expected to reduce the company's estimated 400.
All right, let's see what we got here. Job cut plans. Unnerving Southern California. You got 490,000 employees right now, currently. Then you got 20,000 jobs being cut. Then you have 73 leased or owned properties to be closed. I'm glad that they mentioned leased because I was wondering if any of those buildings did they actually own or were they leased, because Amazon doesn't own any buildings. They just lease it. Whenever they done, they get up out of there.
190,000 employees by 20,000 positions in 2025 and close 73 leased and owned buildings by the end of June.
Pretty much I do all my online shopping.
We met Gabriela Batz outside this UPS store in Riverside as she was returning some of her online purchases.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. So the delay on, getting my refunds and getting my exchanges is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a headache.
The company says it is not releasing details about how this will impact operations in Southern California until all its impacted individuals have been contacted. But some UPS workers told NBC4 off camera they have seen canceled routes due to low deliveries. The company CEO saying the macro environment may be uncertain, but with our actions, we will emerge as an even stronger, more nimble UPS. And back out here live, the company says as the reduction of staff goes into effect, they are also undertaking the largest network reconfiguration in history to be more efficient, but they did not elaborate on those details. Meantime, we did reach out to the Teamsters, the union who represents the UPS workers, for comments about this announcement, but we have not heard back. In Riverside, Christian Cáceres, NBC4 News.
Major layoffs for UPS.
Man. All right, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. UPS is slashing jobs, 20,000 jobs. They're trying to cut cost. My guess is this right here. they're gonna change the qualifications or the classification of those employees from employees to independent contractors, because right now UPS, they're paying some crazy pension rates, man, from workers who are retiring, who have retired, and those pensions are expensive, man, just moving forward. Okay, on top of trying to compete with a logistic giant, a logistics juggernaut like Amazon, who, like, they're doing it right. They're doing good business. Let's get some more perspective on this thing, man. Let's get some more perspective on this thing, man.
West. Lots to talk about tonight. The shipping company UPS announcing earlier today that it plans to cut 20,000 jobs this year, in addition to closing 73 of its facilities. The company says the decision is due in part to an agreement with Amazon to reduce the volume of packages by 50%. Amazon is UPS's largest customer, but UPS's CEO says that Amazon's business is not profitable for the company. UPS also says that tariffs and economic insecurity are partially to blame for the downsizing as well. Barron's Al Root is here to break this down. All right, 20,000 jobs, Al, that's massive. How did UPS get in this hole? Why isn't Amazon profitable for them?
Somebody asked the question that I want to know. Why isn't Amazon profitable for UPS?
A couple of things. I mean, Amazon's very difficult. Amazon's very large. So to some extent, it's market power, right? Amazon is pretty much the largest e-commerce company on the globe, in the Western world, and it can demand relatively favorable pricing. You know, FedEx doesn't deal with UPS. FedEx doesn't deal with Amazon now. UPS is choosing to take to leave some of Amazon's business off the table. And Amazon also has its own internal, very sophisticated logistics network, so it's shifting some of the volume over there. So some of this is the natural ebb and flow of business, but it's very big. And you asked, how did UPS get itself into this position? I mean, remember, we got to go all the way back to COVID. You know, before COVID, before an e-commerce boom, you know, UPS is doing $75 billion in sales. By 2022, that's like $100 billion in sales.
You ain't answered the question, man. Let's go back, because I didn't hear the answer. Am I tripping? Did he answer that question?
The decision is due in part to an agreement with Amazon to reduce the volume of packages by 50%. Amazon is UPS's largest customer, but UPS's CEO says that Amazon's business is not profitable for the company. UPS also says that tariffs and economic insecurity are partially to blame for the downsizing as well. Barron's Al Root is here to break this down. All right, 20,000 jobs, Al, that's massive. How did UPS get in this hole? Why isn't Amazon profitable for them?
A couple of things. I mean, Amazon's very difficult. Amazon's very large. So to some extent, it's market power, right? Amazon is pretty much the largest e-commerce company on the globe, or in the Western world, and it can demand relatively favorable pricing. You know, FedEx doesn't deal with UPS. FedEx doesn't deal with Amazon now. UPS is choosing to take to leave some of Amazon's business off the table. And Amazon also has its own internal, very sophisticated logistics network, so it's shifting some of the volume over there. So some of this is the natural ebb and flow of business, but it's very big. And you asked, how did UPS get itself into this position? I mean, remember, we got to go all the way back to COVID. You know, before COVID, before an e-commerce boom, you know, UPS is doing $75 billion in sales. By 2022, that's like $100 billion in sales. Amazon's, 10 to 15% of the total revenue. And then, like Carol, the CEO Carol Tomé said today, it's not as good as the rest of UPS's business. So they're stepping away from some of it. So they're stepping away from, $5 billion in business, maybe $5 to $10 billion in Amazon business. And that necessitates laying off 20,000 workers again for.
Okay, so what happened was UPS had hired workers to contract that Amazon freight. Since that freight isn't profitable, 20,000 jobs have to go, which I'm surprised, like, why in the heck did they hire 20,000 people or these new jobs, right? Like, why didn't they just go the independent contractor route, right? Because that's the way that these companies are going. But UPS is a damn good American company. I ain't gonna lie. If you can get you a job at UPS, you got you a good damn job, man.
Context. That's roughly 5% of the workforce. And UPS has almost 500,000 people working for it.
So the idea of tariffs, Al, continues to spook businesses and consumers. What kind of role are tariffs playing in this UPS news, if any? How does it feel to you?
So I think that today's news, UPS reported earnings today. The layoffs, the Amazon business that sort of came out in the first quarter, sort of pre-tariffs. So a lot of this cost savings.
He had answered the how, but he didn't answer the why.
Things in restructuring is Amazon related. But we saw it in FedEx earnings, and we see it in earnings all over the place. People are still uncertain about the business impact of the tariffs. Remember, they just went into effect in April. A lot of comments about customer conversations and how they're planning to mitigate and move logistics around. So there's part of it. So, for instance, the tariff part of UPS's call, like they basically suspended guidance, and they just talked about the second quarter. Companies usually give people a look into the full year. That's what General Motors did. Other companies have done the same. So they're seeing some cost inflation. Their customers are maybe stepping back or trying to redo logistics. But from a tariff perspective, we're still in the very early innings of the impacts and trying to figure out what businesses are going to do.
So, Al, one other thing that happened today, I know this is probably...
So basically, we're up in a place of limbo. We don't know. Customers are basically uncertain.
Probably something that you've had your eye on as well. Amazon was in the news today for another reason. Punchbowl News reporting that Amazon was considering displaying the cost of U.S. tariffs next to certain products online. The Trump administration called that a hostile and political act. Ultimately, Amazon saying themselves that this will not be happening. But Al, sometimes when these things leak out, sometimes there's negotiating in the public going on. Does it feel like something like that's happening here, or is that a bit of a stretch?
I think so. I think that's accurate. I think to some extent, Amazon is in some respect at the heart of the tariff. They import a lot of stuff from Asian countries, China, Vietnam, shoes, clothing. A lot of that stuff is made in Asia, and it faces substantial tariffs. Amazon's sort of responsible for paying those tariffs. So instead of raising prices, they came up with this great idea. We'll just, show a tariff line item, and we'll show people that, we haven't changed our prices. We're not making any more money.
So Amazon absorbs the tariff cost. Well, I be damned.
Administration wasn't happy about that. Stuff like this has been tried before. If you go back to airlines, when fuel prices go up and down, or sometimes from taxes, ticket taxes and things like this, or landing fees at airports.
I was having a conversation with a friend, man. We were on Facebook. We were going back and forth, and I said that businesses can absorb taxes and tariffs and pass the savings on to customers. And he said that's not capitalism. Well, Amazon is making money hand over fist. What are you talking about? It can be done.
Airports or airlines have tried to say, well, look at your ticket. We're not making much money. Look, it's all airport fees, or it's all fuel expense. The bottom line, again, from Amazon perspective, it's trying to figure out how to mitigate costs, any potential cost increases from tariffs, how much it can pass along to the consumer, what will that do to its business. So, it was like an idea they floated, and let's just say the idea landed like a lead balloon.
So you touched on something, and this was exactly what I wanted to ask is, do you foresee if something like this were to be implemented, whether it's Amazon, whether it's another online retailer, putting tariff prices next to items, do you see that changing consumer behavior?
Well, no, ultimately price will change consumer behavior, right? So if we go back to like the price of a car, and there were some tariff changes today, but the consensus estimate was like tariffs could increase costs by $5,000 or $10,000, and there were some changes made today. Tariffs could increase the cost of cars maybe $2,000 to $5,000 now. So not as severe, but it's still a cost increase. I mean, so that's what changes consumer behavior, right? So maybe you have to buy used, maybe you wait to buy a new car, maybe you go with a lower end car. Those are sorts of the changes, right? Like you, me, everybody else, we're all just sort of trying, I'm doing it very unsuccessfully, mind you, to make our checkbooks balance. And so that's what really changes consumer behavior. I mean, the fact that there's a tariff, go back to that airline example. I'm either going to Chicago because I can afford the ticket. I don't really care if there's the fuel expense is up. I can either afford it or I can't. So the price is ultimately what's going to change consumer behavior. And again, we're sort of still in those early innings of how much inflation, price increase, cost increase can be mitigated. What's going to be the final end game? It's just, we're still we're less than 4 weeks into this sort of tariff idea.
Huh.
Great. Jeff Bezos was very nice. He was terrific. He solved the problem very quickly, and he did the right thing, and he's a good guy.
Since Amazon bought Whole Foods for $13.7 billion in 2017, it's become...
We're not going to go into Amazon, man. Yeah, let me know what y'all think, man. Let me know what y'all think, man. I think that UPS, they're laying off 20,000 workers. They are increasing revenue or increasing profits, all while revenue is decreasing. So they're doing some good things over there, that's for sure, right? So y'all let me know what y'all think, man. Amazon, UPS, 20,000 jobs being cut. Amazon increasing market share. Also, Amazon absorbing the cost of those tariffs, man, and passing the savings on to the customers. I want y'all opinion about that. I'm going to shut down the StreamYard and come back on with that because that one is really interesting to me, man. I'll be back in a little bit, boy. This is y'all boy, AK Harrison. Y'all let me know what y'all think, man.